Good evening and welcome to the February 28th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast by FCTV on cable channel 9. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. We are missing 2 commissioners tonight. However, we have a quorum, so we're moving forward. And as a reminder, for commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time, so we're not tripping over each other, and that all votes have to be done by roll call. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at that time, I'll call for public comment. When you are selected, you'll be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled. Be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw do not apply, so the project may proceed as proposed. However, a positive determination means that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw do in fact apply and/or may require some conditions. Therefore, the project would require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you kind of want to hear the negative. All right. One thing before we start officially in the agenda, I just want to let you guys know or announce that Melissa Freitag has officially tendered her resignation as a member of the Conservation Commission. I'd like to thank Melissa for her commitment to this board and wish her well in her newest endeavor. All right, for the agenda, first up, vote minutes, February 14, 2024. Anybody?
I read the minutes and I would accept them as written unless there's any changes.
I second that motion.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept the minutes. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Excuse me, Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
That went quick. I wasn't ready for that. All right, with this quorum.
Come on, Jamie, keep up.
Yeah, you know, it's unanimous. We've accepted the minutes of February 14th. Next up, request for a continuance of under a notice of intent. Joyce Bach, Friends of Cedar Lake, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to conduct invasive species management of Cedar Lake. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until March 20th. So move, Carlo Hawks.
Second.
All right,
O'Brien.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to continue this until March 20th. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have continued this until March 20th. Next up are requests for determination of applicability. First up, Zachary Benton, 61 Edgewater Drive West, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct a deck and relocate a fence. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
So move, Carlo Hawks.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Peter and Valerie Mazzina, 127 Shorewood Drive, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install a stone swale. Ms. Bergeron.
The applicant has requested a continuance until March 6th.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second, Gladfelter.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till March 6th. Did I get that right?
Yes. Mhm.
All right. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Earl Hawks eye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until March 6th. Next up, Craig Deambra, trustee, Beckles Road Realty Trust, 31 Beckles Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to conduct invasive species management. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
So moved. Earl Hawks.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Earl Hawks eye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Excuse me. Next up, our continued request for determination of applicability. Joseph Zampatella, 87 Nauset Ave East, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to replace existing timber ties and vista prune according to FWR 10.18 10B. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
So moved. Earl Hawks.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Earl Hawks eye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. All right, that brings us to requests for hearing under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder for public commenting will be limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Nathan Pieri, 196 Metoxet Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, RAZE, an existing single-family dwelling and construct a new single-family dwelling with a deck, porches, and rinse station, relocate an outbuilding and shed, and install dry wells. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Mike Borselli up as a panelist to present his project.
Excellent. Good evening, Mr. Borselli. You're up, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant Nathan Pieri. Mr. Pieri is in the audience and is available if necessary to be in panel to answer questions or make any comments. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Before I start my presentation, I want to fess up to something. I was unable to get to the site to place a sign to help you find the site. I'm hoping you were able to find it. There was a street address at the driveway entrance and the name, and the last week got away from me and I never got out there to place a sign.
Make a motion to deny. I'm kidding. We
Thank you.
forgive you this time, Mike.
All right, thanks. I'm sharing with you the existing conditions plan of the site. The property has water frontage on Moonicus River. The wetland resources of note include land containing shellfish, land under the ocean. There is a narrow band of salt marsh. There's a sloping landform that meets the definition of coastal bank. And actually, I've highlighted also spring tide and noted that as land subject to tidal action because it has associated with it a 100-foot no disturbance zone A. More on that in a minute. There's also an area of critical environmental concern that's flood zone elevation based, and it's elevation 10 on the maps in this location. So the reason I have shown a 100-foot no disturbance zone A from land subject to tidal action is because your regulations say that it's 100 instead of 75 if it's also in an ACEC. The only resource area that doesn't apply to is a coastal bank. So I've shown the 50-foot no disturbance zone A and 50-foot outer B from the top of the coastal bank. The lot is fairly large in size. I'm going to zoom in on this map. The lot itself is 3 acres in size. It's heavily wooded with the exception of the driveway in the portions of the site that have been previously developed. On the lot today, you would have seen an existing house. As you approach the house on the right, you would have found a recently constructed detached garage, which is outside your jurisdiction. And there's a shed also on the property. It has a teardrop driveway and some lawn areas. The plan is to demolish portions of the house and renovate other portions of the house. In the staff report, the term raze, R-A-Z-E, is used, but this isn't a complete demolition. This is a partial demolition because some of the portions of the house are very old and special, and the client wants to keep those portions and demolish some of the newer sections which were constructed in, I think, the late 90s. I'm going to show you an exhibit that I can't take credit for. Mr. Peary did this exhibit, and it outlines what I mean by not a full raise and reconstruct. As this project progresses, the idea is to demolish 2 sections, which are shown in red boxes. That is the existing deck in this section of the house from 1999, which is going to be demolished. This middle section in green is the original house, and that is going to be preserved, but it's going to be put on a new FEMA compliant foundation. And this section here is also going to be preserved. But this section is going to be moved. It's going to be moved from this position over into a location here, which shows on my site plan, which I'll show you in a minute. In order to put the new foundation on this project, that is going to be moved. This will be demolished, and this will be demolished as step 1. And then step 2 involves, after that section's moved, shifting the box over that they intend to preserve temporarily to make way for the new foundation that would be installed and accept that section. Once that's done and that foundation's been installed, they're going to shift that back, and then they're going to install the balance of the foundation for a portion that'll be new construction. And then there will also be a new deck. So hopefully that was clear. If you need me to clarify, I am happy to do so. That brings me to now my overall proposed site plan. So this shows the section of the house that is shown in red here, to be moved over to this location. That'll make way for all of the other steps I just outlined. So the net result in the end is a new footprint that is made up of a portion of the existing house, which is here, with a small new bump out on it, and then new construction to the north of that. As I typically do, I show in red for reference the existing structure. And I'm pointing out now how the new structure will be shifted back somewhat from the leading edge of the existing house in this area. This one little jut out is proposed to maintain the same distance from the wetland resources, as well as the new deck on this edge. And there's a very specific reason for that, and that is it captures a very good view down the Moonicus River in this position. Mr. Pieri thought this out in great detail and worked out the details with his architect. Jen had mentioned concerns about this being so close to the top of the coastal bank and the fact that it's in a velocity zone. And we had early conversations with Mr. Pieri about that, but he understands the risk, but the reward of the position on the site and the view is worth it to him. And this does meet your performance standards. There's some staff comments in the staff report about recommendations and such about this. And as I also do, typically I did an impervious surface analysis of the existing conditions, the blue A zone areas in the orange colored B zone areas for the existing condition. And those are tabulated on the plan. I also did an analysis for the proposed condition, which includes shifting this shed over here, shifting that portion of the building back, and then reconstruction and renovation of the balance of this and some walkways. A big section of the driveway is proposed to be removed. And all the numbers tabulated out yield decreases in both the A and B zone. So no mitigation planting is required. There's an existing septic system that serves the property that is in good working order and past Title V. There's no plans at this point to do anything with the septic system. Dry wells are proposed, and as I had stated, this structure currently is not in compliance with FEMA standards for construction in a velocity zone. So a new concrete pier pile supported structure is proposed to make it in compliance with both FEMA standards, Falmouth Building Department standards, and your standards. I reviewed the staff report, and Alyssa and I didn't get a chance to go through it in detail, but I understand all of the issues and comments. There's nothing really, I don't think, earth-shattering in the staff report that we can't address. There was a question, is the space below is there an enclosed space proposed for the house? Meaning, I believe, underneath the building, and the answer to that is no. It's proposed to be completely pile supported and open. there might have been an architectural rendition that showed something, but it's absolutely intended. We understand we can't enclose that. And it's very low profile. It's not a full story at all. It's not occupiable. It's just the house is being elevated a small amount. The proposed first floor is 17 for the new house, which meets your standards for work in a velocity zone. And the existing first floor is currently just under 16. So they're only lifting the house up about a foot, but it's currently not open pile supported. So that's the big difference. Other comments in the staff report say, please submit revised architecturals that eliminate any breakaway panels. Absolutely intend to do that. There was a comment about given the current distance from the top of the bank and the presence of land subject to title action, staff strongly encourages the applicant to consider moving the house landward. I touched on that and explained the reasons why. We are moving back a section, but there's a section that isn't moving back, and it's not a huge shift back, but it is something. There are a few other comments related to some trees that may not have been shown on the plan in specific areas. For instance, we were proposing to reshift this structure. I'm happy to revisit and look more closely for other trees that I may have missed. There was a comment about moving this shed into this position. We intend to move this into a position. It might not be exactly here. We don't want to put it in a position that requires us to do any clearing or tree removal. So we're going to revisit the specific location where that shed is relocated. And there's a few other staff related questions that need clarification that I think are best handled by having another site visit with staff. So what I'd like to do is hear your questions and comments, and then request a continuance to give us time to meet with staff on site to just go through some of these more basic matters about trees and replanting some areas that we can then revise the plan and submit to you. On the last page of the staff report, there was a comment about some trees that were topped. Mr. Peary is very much aware of the fact that you can't do that. That was done by a previous owner, and he understands he can't do that. I think that sums it up, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thanks, Mike. Jen,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, we can't comment on the first part of Mike's presentation about the demolition because we were not provided that information. So we can't comment on it. It wasn't in the narrative. We were not presented with that schematic, so we have no comments at this time. Mike, if you'd please submit that to us so we can review it, that would be great.
Yep.
It's pile supported, Mike. You kept saying FEMA compliant foundation, but there is no foundation, correct? It's
Yeah.
on piles.
Yeah, I mean the pilings of the foundation.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And you said that you were moving a section back, but you're actually enlarging the structure into that section. So there really isn't a section moving back. You're moving an older portion of the section back, and then you're building on to the other section, correct? So there's really no section that's actually you're pulling back a section, but then you're putting a section back almost in the exact same footprint, correct?
As far as size goes, yes, but my point was there was concerns about it being so close to the top of the bank, so I was trying to illustrate that, yes, it's getting rebuilt, but it's getting rebuilt in a place that's a little bit further away from the top of the bank.
Well, your existing conditions plan and your actual proposed plan, the deck and the other portion near the deck are the same location of the coastal bank. And if you're talking about the section you're moving it a whole 4 feet back.
Well,
So I really do have some concerns, Mr. Chairman, with the location of this house. I mean, it is 6.8 feet away from the top of that bank. We have banks all over town that are eroding at a very rapid rate. This is a 3-acre property and there is room to pull that house back, which I believe would not significantly impact the view. Your client is aware that in no point in the future will we allow this bank to be armored and that he may be faced with moving the house landward at that time.
He understands the comments in the staff report about that, yep.
Again, I have really grave concerns of building a house this close to a bank in a velocity zone. I just think it's very, very concerning. Very concerning. And then Mike, there's just several trees that aren't on the plan, but you said we'll have a site visit and talk about that.
Yeah, I
And
think
you
it's
said you're
best to
gonna-
handle that on a site visit.
Okay, we can figure that out. And then you said the shed location's not set in stone yet, but we're gonna have to have it set in stone in order to prove it.
Yeah, so the point is, we're gonna show you a place where we wanna move it if we have a site visit that's gonna not result in any clearing or tree removal.
Okay,
I mean, the shed is sort of being moved because it's gonna be nearby to the other relocated portion of the building, and they wanna coexist. It's a good shed, but there's no need to clear.
yeah, no, we just need to know where it is out in the field so we can look at it, that's all.
Okay,
Okay, and if your client wants to keep this house so close to a bank, which again, I find concerning, then the vegetation on the bank needs to stop being altered and cut. There were several stumps on the bank. We have pictures from 2020. I think I just looked up the owner took control of the property in March of 2020.
Mhm.
Don't exactly know what time of year these were taken, but I can find out. So there were several trees or saplings on the bank that were removed. That vegetation's actually holding that bank, so any chance of that bank hanging in there and not eroding, it would be really great if the vegetation would stop being cut on the bank.
yeah, we wanna talk about that on the site. He wants to be proactive, and it's gonna be a good idea to impanel him just so he can say a few words at the appropriate time, but we
Sure.
definitely wanna vegetate with more vegetation on the bank. We don't know that trees are appropriate, but certainly
Well,
shrub.
there were trees on the bank, so staff feels trees are appropriate to put back on the bank.
Yeah,
That's all, Mike. You know where I'm coming from.
yeah, we're gonna be cooperative on that. We just wanna make sure we work out the details. Yep.
Okay. And I think Mike pretty much addressed most of the other things, a lot of the things we need to, a site visit. And again, Mike, if you could submit the first part of your presentation, because I'm not gonna comment on it because we didn't get a chance to review it.
Happy to, and I can walk
Alright.
you through it on the site too.
Perfect. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
all righty. Ms. Bergeron,
No comments. Thank you.
all right. Commissioner comments or questions? Betsy?
Yeah, I want to follow up on some comments that Jen made. We all know we were out to see Great Bay Street a couple of weeks ago. And there's been at least 10 feet of bank that has been eroded back, partly from water coming over the top, but also being undercut by storms. And the fact is, when banks like this get eroded, it's not a gradual little bit each year. Nothing might happen for 50 years, and then there might be a hurricane, and it might just be swept out. So what I'm wondering is, Mike, did you have any geotechnical engineers look to determine how deep the piles have to be? And
Um,
also to comment on what would happen if the bank started eroding towards the area?
I don't think Mr. Pierre has got into that detail with the design because he wanted to, you know, get approval before he goes to detail on construction drawings, but we can look into that.
Yeah, but I think I think if you had a coastal scientist comment on this, or even a geotechnical engineer, they might caution you. I mean, it is in the velocity zone, and it's clearly already being cut back at the base a little bit. That's why you have a peat shelf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we should probably take a look at rates of erosion. We might talk to a coastal geologist about this and get some advice.
Yeah, as I mean, you look at the aerial, it's eroded north and south, scooped in, and this is at a place that's sticking out. So it's the area that's going to be targeted if there is a big storm.
Okay.
So those are my comments. You know, it is and I don't understand. I don't know where the 50 feet came from, because it's 75 feet for an eroding coastal bank in a velocity zone.
I'll look into that as well. I don't think it'll change anything, but because the other resource areas trump it as far as, I mean, the math will still be the same, but I can change that.
Change what?
Well, I can, right now my plan shows a 50-foot no disturbance zone from the top of the bank. And you're saying since the bank's eroding in the V zone, the no touch zone should be a 75.
Correct.
So I can make that revision, but the impervious surface calcs won't change
Oh,
because,
no. Yeah, I know that.
okay,
I get that.
that's all I was.
I've worked on this as long as
I
you
know you
have,
have.
Mike.
I know.
That's all for now. Thanks.
All right. Mike, can you clarify for me, is the limit of work 10 feet away? That northeast corner verbiage is kind of vague. I mean, I follow it. Your note says 3.6 feet, but I think that's the top of the coastal bank. But your arrow kind of shows right to the limit of work, so.
Yeah, there was
I'm
a
just-
comment, staff report, comment about the limit of work in a few places was not 10 feet away. I'll revise the limit of work to show it 10 feet away.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Kevin,
I have a lot of comments, but I think I'll keep them to myself so we can continue on air.
all right. Raise your hand if you come up with anything. Maury,
I just had a couple things. I'm gonna reiterate what Betsy and everybody said about moving back. Everybody always thinks that it won't happen to them, but when that bank erodes and we don't allow you to revet it, then everybody points the finger at us that we're the bad guys. And I don't think you need a coastal geologist or a scientist or anybody else to know that the coastlines are being totally trashed. And this will not be probably exempt from that at some point. So that's up to you and your client. And I'm concerned about it only because there's so much land there. A lot of people don't have that luxury to even move anywhere. Number two, you're removing the driveway, Mike. And it's really weird because a driveway is supposed to be something that has a flow. And it's just, I'm just asking this as a semantic thing. So I'm sure, so you get rid of that area, but how are you gonna just have like a fork and drive one car in and one car out and back out?
That's a good question. So we wanted to demonstrate we're removing a portion of the driveway to compensate for increases in impervious surfaces. So there's a section of driveway that's gonna be removed as shown, and then the rest of the driveway is gonna be reconsidered and reconfigured outside jurisdiction, but it's gonna be, constructed so that the driveway goes up into the detached garage, and then the area that is showing like the two forks is gonna be landscaped, loamed and seeded, so you just like drive to the detached garage and then just, walk from the garage to the house. So it looks kind of funny, but we don't know what we're gonna do yet where the driveway would fork, but it's outside jurisdiction, so we're gonna work on that sort of as a second,
Okay.
phase. But there'll be no new driveway where we're proposing to remove it.
Okay, it just was very odd.
Yeah, I know. We're trying to
And
work that
also-
out.
All right, and also, as you know, you can't have sheds or garages without a special permit in front of the primary house. So all
Yeah, I
this shed moving is all okay?
I should have mentioned that too. Mr. Pieri has already applied to the zoning board of appeals as part of
Okay.
this.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, it's one thing to one shed, but they've already got a brand new garage that they probably got a variance for. And now we're shifting sheds and structures. And I'm very happy to see somebody recycling and reclaiming and reusing structures. Usually they just tear them down. I'm not against it. It's just, I don't want to have a snafu for him that he doesn't understand that, but he does.
He does,
And
so,
that's it.
yep,
But I would certainly and strongly explain to him about the non-revetment or armoring in the future ever on this site and how it might impact him. And it might not be so far in the future.
yep.
Thank
He's at the, when we receive, if you're done with your comments as a
I am.
commission, or I'll wait until you are, I think it would be wise to have Mr. Pieri in panel just to have, so you can meet him and he can give you his 2 cents. And
I'm all
I'm
done.
listening to you loud and clear on this.
Thank you.
All right. Mike, is this a project that's start fairly soon, fairly quickly, I guess I would say?
The plan is for next fall, if he secures all permits.
It seems odd to put in underground electric service that you're then gonna tear down and pull away. I mean, it's not relevant to us, but I'm just making an observation.
Well, he's not gonna do anything with underground services until the project construction starts.
Okay, again, it's just an observation from my day job. There's a brand new pedestal and the underground goes to the existing meter location. So for all appearances, it looks like it's something that's gonna happen like next week, and anybody can do that. Just
Maybe
seems-
maybe Nathan has something to comment on about that as well.
Okay, all right, Jen?
Couple of things, Mike, I know you're gonna move that limit of work in that, northeast corner or north corner of the house. Is that vegetated in there?
I don't believe so, but I'm gonna have to take a look at that on the site.
Okay, take a look at that. And then tomorrow's things, and I know you haven't quite worked out how you're gonna reconfigure your driveway. So you said that the portion of driveway you're gonna remove is just gonna be loam and seeded and just be lawn. So where do these stepping stones go?
Well, right now, it's just gonna go to the new lawn area. He may propose an additional
More
walk.
stepping stones over to the garage?
Yeah,
Okay. It seems like you're just still working those, fine tuning those little items outside of jurisdiction, so.
exactly.
Yeah, just make sure because I think you're right at your impervious surface calc. So, keep that in mind if you have to add your stepping stones or whatever.
Absolutely. And
And-
Mr. Pieri is commenting, and I think he should be impaneled, that the pedestal Chairman Matthews was relative to the new detached garage. That's what that was constructed for, but I'll let him talk to that point.
Just tell me when I, to impanel them, Mike, and I will.
Now would be a good time.
Hmm?
Now would be a good time.
Okay. Mr. Perry, I'm impaneling you as a, so just click yes. You'd like to be impaneled. Good. One other thing, Mike, I know you said you're gonna give us a revised architectural on the breakaways, have them remove the paneling around the Rin station too, put something more
Yes,
velocity zone friendly, I
Yes.
guess what we're saying over there.
right.
Can everyone hear me?
Excellent. Yes, Mr. Prairie, we can. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Pierre?
Yes, I think to respond to the question about electrical, when we put the garage in, it was an underground service. And so we did run the pedestal for the house, and the plan is to hook up the house with that new underground service. You know, if this gets permitted, if we move forward with construction, we would, we would reattach it, right? And we would change it, with a new build.
Okay. Again, it's irrelevant for us, but I just found it
Right.
curious myself. All right, anything else you'd like to add, sir?
I think Mike did a good job of explaining the project. We are interested in trying to keep, not only the 1941 house, but also to build a house that, has many of the same characteristics of a Cape on the Cape. We are trying to move it back off of the coastal bank. There are challenges though when you keep the existing house in terms of how far back you can move the addition and still have the right kind of flow through the house. So we moved it back as far as we could while maintaining that corner and maintaining that view down the Municus through to Quiet Bay, and then you can see Martha's Vineyard. So that's the view that we're trying to preserve. And I fully understand and appreciate the concerns about being so close to the bank. I do feel, however, that the Municus River probably doesn't have the same erosive concerns we would have if we were either like on Wacoya Bay or on the ocean. And so there is a bit of a bet, that we're making that, maybe this is 50 years and not 5 years. I think the idea too, though, by lifting the house and putting it on the pilings, is that if in fact, we had to, 30, 40, 50 years from now, we could move the house back on the property. And you're right, there's room, but then you would be sacrificing, those particular views. And so we are going to great expense to lift the house, put it on the pilings. As Mike mentioned, we only had to lift it a foot or so. It'll be a little bit more than that. But that is, something we're kind of, going in with eyes wide open.
All right, Betsy.
So, Mr. Pieri, do you know what the velocity zone means?
I do. So we're in a V13 zone.
So if there's a big storm, it means if there's a 100-year storm, it means, and that, obviously the storms have to hit the right direction, but it will just go right up the river. And V13 means at 13-foot elevation, you're going to have 3-foot breaking waves. So, you realize you're taking a gamble, but it could be 50 years from now. It could be next hurricane season.
Right. In talking to my neighbors, many of whom families have been there for the 100 years. I know things are changing, right? Don't get me wrong. I understand climate change, but even in the hurricanes where sailboats have found their way down the Municus, the folks there would say that the water level maybe came up halfway up the bank. So I guess at the end of the day, if there's a storm surge with a 16-foot storm surge that's going to run through the Cape, I think that, there's probably, such immense devastation that, being, even 20 feet back, maybe, or 50 feet back, might not be enough anyways. So you're right, it's kind of a bet that we're making to preserve the view, with an option in the future to move the structure back because it's on pilings, to protect it if we have to.
So I just want to give you my perspective. I lived in the Caribbean for 25 years. And when we lived in St. Croix, the word was, well, we haven't had a hurricane here for 50 years. And then we had 2 Category 4 hurricanes in the next 6 years. And since then, they've had a whole series of Category 4 and 5 devastating hurricanes. So whatever we had a history story a couple of weeks ago, and here as to what do we mean by history. I can tell you that whatever people have experienced and can tell you about it now, those were not major hurricanes.
Mhm.
But
All right, Jen,
I'm glad
sorry.
you're keeping the old house.
Trying to.
That's nice.
Thank you.
You good?
Yeah, thank you, Jamie.
Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat function, Mr. Chairman, but I did have a question for Mike or for Mr. Prieri or for you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so
Oh.
Mike, going back to your first schematic about when you're moving the house, like how you're breaking the house apart, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're removing a section of the house. So the main portion of the house, you have to move that completely off the existing foundation in order to remove the existing foundation and drive the pilings, correct?
Mhm.
Correct.
Okay. So the comment that Mr. Perry made about the flow of the house, the whole structure could move back and the flow could be maintained because you're just piecing it back together. So if you moved it back and then move the new section even further back to match the old section, it doesn't really have anything to do with the flow because you have to move that old section way off the foundation to put the pilings in. Correct? So it doesn't, so the flow comment's kind of confusing to me because you can make the flow work wherever you site this house on the property. It doesn't need to be sited where it's proposed, is what I'm getting at. Okay,
Well,
that's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Well, maybe he means that the flow, including the,
Yeah.
the views and
The
whatnot.
corridor.
As far as moving part of the building and putting it back, that's kind of irrelevant. I mean, if they tear the house down and start all over, it's the same methodology. So the fact that they're gonna take a piece and put it back,
Well, we
mean,
see, yeah, we see
it's
cribbing
good
up
they're
and moving.
preserving it. What I mean is, for what I think what you're asking is, that's kind of irrelevant. I mean, whether they're gonna put the piece back or they're gonna, build something new. Know what I
Well,
mean?
No, I don't think it's irrelevant because the statement was that they had to put this here because it matched the flow.
It's
And
the
it
flow that gives
doesn't.
you the view, Jen.
Oh, the flow.
He
I
wa-
thought it
he
meant the
wants
flow
Flow that
the
through
gives
the
main-
you the
house.
view.
I meant the flow. I thought he said the flow through the house.
No. No. All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? Staff? Mr. Borselli?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request a continuance to March 27th.
So
Mike, did
moved.
you say 27?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
I know
Are
not.
we all gonna be here on the 27th?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is
I
the
will be.
Kevin?
Actually, now that I think of it, no. I don't come back until April 2nd.
So maybe we should do it till a date.
Mike, we're gonna have to do it in sometime in April then if we're not gonna have a quorum. Kevin, are you back on the 2nd? Could you do the 3rd?
And I'd probably be as knowledgeable as I currently am on this thing. But yes,
You will be on the third, here on the 3rd.
what?
You will be here on April 3rd.
April 3rd.
Okay, Mike, April 3rd?
Yeah, that was one of the dates we talked about. It gives us another week. I mean, it is what it is, I think, unless Mr. Pieri has a reason not to go with the 3rd.
At the request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue this hearing until April 3rd.
Carl Hawk second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until April 3rd. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carl Hawk's eye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this hearing until April 3rd. Thank you, everyone.
And
Good
thank
night,
you.
gentlemen.
And just so
Night,
you know,
Mike.
in the spirit of efficiency, we've already made a site meeting appointment with Alyssa, so we're gonna get on this right away. Thank
Wow.
you.
Did you
Already
do
scheduled.
that through text already?
No, earlier today, we already worked it out.
Oh,
Is that before the blizzards of March start showing up?
Oh, hopefully we don't get those. But thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Mike.
Night,
night,
Mike.
everybody.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mike.
All right, next up, Thomas Fanning, Megansett Yacht Club, 237 County Road and 0 Pine Bank Road off North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to pump dry and remove the existing cesspool and to install a new Title V sewage disposal system, and to request variances from FWR 10.383B2 and FWR 10.383B5, FWR 10.383C2, and FWR 10.384B1. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I have Hannah, if I mess up your Raditz. I hope I said that right.
That's it.
Okay, great. From the BSC group here to present her project. Good evening, Hannah.
Good evening, everyone. Hannah Raditz, wetland scientist with BSC. So this project at 237 County Road, I'll just go over some of the basic details. In the audience with me is the applicant, Tom Fanning, who can speak to any questions that I can't respond to. But just to start up with the chair's permission, I will share my screen.
yes, ma'am.
All right. Can everyone see the plan I just pulled up?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. I'll zoom in on the plan in time since there's a lot going on. So one thing of note to the commissioners is today we did some plan revisions in response to the agent comments that we received yesterday. This mostly consisted of some extra details involving sediment and erosion controls, a dewatering basin details, and additional details about the replacement trees, which are currently on the plan down in the southernmost corner down here, but the applicant has requested that we move those in respect to abutters who might have opinions about how it might block their view. So those will change. But this plan is slightly different than the one that the commissioners have received when this was submitted, and will likely be revised again after tonight's hearing. So just to dive into this project, this is a proposed replacement of a failed septic system, which is undersized. This septic system is located within the existing parking lot behind the Megansett Yacht Club. The system will be replaced with a perchlorate drip dispersal system. This involves a 3,500 gallon tank, as well as a 2,500 gallon pump chamber. Associated with this system is a soil absorption system. That is this area back here. This is a raised system that will allow for this system to function properly. This system, because it needs to be raised, is proposed to have a retaining wall around about 75% of the raised system. That's this light gray line here. In addition to these items, the fence around the dumpster, which is here and currently existing, is proposed to be replaced with a similar wooden 6-foot tall picket fence. The parking lot, which has most of the work going on within it, will be milled and repaved and not expanded, just kept in its existing footprint. Finally, a rain garden will be installed at this portion of the site. I'll get into more details about that later, but to replace the tree that may have to be removed because of the filtration system at this part of the site, 2 red cedars will be planted to replace this existing mature red cedar. The resource areas on the site consist of coastal beach, coastal dune, coastal bank, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. All these different colors are trying to help distribute the or differentiate the different resource areas. All of the proposed work is going to be outside of the 0 to 50-foot buffer to all of these resource areas, aside from the buffer to VE, which is the local required buffer. And impacts to these 100-foot buffers is going to be only consisting of the repaving of the parking lot. So this is mostly temporary in nature. All septic system components will only be located within land subject to coastal storm flowage VE zone. The difference between VE and AE changes about here at the far back of the site. So the majority of the site is in VE zone. And just moving along, as I mentioned, all of the septic system components are being located as far away from the resource areas and their associated buffer zones as physically possible, given the restrictions of this site. There will be no significant change to impervious area within land subject to coastal storm flowage. The 169 square feet associated with this retaining wall around the filtration system will be compensated for with 224 square feet of the rain garden located in this portion of the site. So that should offer an additional 68 cubic feet of stormwater filtration ability for the site. This area is currently very dense with rugosa rose, so some of that would be trimmed and replaced with native species. And finally, sediment controls will be installed at the limit of work around the site. This will consist of staked hay bales or staked wattles, whichever the commission prefers, as well as a silt fence backing for additional protection. Any catch basins on or adjacent to the site will also be protected with catch basin protection bags. Some details that might be helpful. So on the second page, which is part of the new revised plans, we included a detail for a dewatering sediment trap. This would be if any dewatering is necessary for any excavation portion of the project. This would likely be located on the eastern portion of the site near where the proposed rain garden will be. This is just due to constraints on the site and so much parking area already being paved. So it would likely be in this area here. But we believe that with the filter fabric and the use of staked hay bales and a filter bag as well, this shouldn't cause any sediment to leave the enclosure of the dewatering basin, and it would be cleaned up as soon as it wasn't needed anymore. I believe that is all of the important information. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to the Conservation Commission. Should I leave the plan up or should I just stop screen sharing?
Stop sharing for the moment, but don't be upset if you're asked to share it again. All right, Jen.
So I think and I'm sorry, Hannah, if you touched on it, so I think all the variances are very technical in nature. They have to do with like shear walls and a V zone that they need to enclose the mounded septic system, Mr. Chairman. So the variances are just very nuanced. But BSC felt very strongly about putting them in just because they didn't want to get tripped up. So
Yeah, you're right, Jennifer. I didn't bring them up in my discussion. We just wanted to
cover all your bases. I get
yeah,
it.
just to
Yep.
speak to the fact that the regulations don't typically allow for this, but given the site constraints, I understand it's sort of we didn't have a choice, but we wanted to acknowledge the fact that we were trying to do our best to be in compliance with both the state and the municipal
Correct.
regulations.
Yeah. So we had reached out and had that conversation with BSC Group. At this time, the staff has no problems recommending the requested variances for this project. Hannah, the rain garden, are you putting that? I know you did that. You're putting that in the area of that existing Rugosa Rose?
Yep, so there is a narrow bit of grassy, sort of sparse grassy area at the edge of the parking lot, and then there's a very dense sort of hedge of mostly Rugosa Rose from my understanding, and the plan would be to cut into that. I don't have the exact square footage of how much that would be cut into because I don't think we captured that properly on the plan.
Yep, and the rain garden is for what purpose? Is it a mitigation measure or is it? Okay, because honestly, I'd prefer just to leave the Rugosa Rose instead of cutting into it and trying to create some sort of rain garden. It's healthy, it's doing well there. So I would not be opposed to just leaving that and not cutting into it for a constructed rain garden, but that's up to the commission. The watering basin you had shown really close to that property line. Are you sure there's not going to be any impact to the adjacent property with that really close to that property line where you had it sketched out?
I believe that the way, the access way that is near to the edge of the property would give enough space. Also, I would imagine that this dewatering wouldn't be substantial. The other option is, this is typical for utility projects, which I do have a lot of experience with for city projects in the road where they can only dewater onto asphalt. You can just let it spread across the asphalt because that containment has so many layers for filtration. That sediment is going to stay within the basin and the bag. So the water is just dispersing across the pavement. So they could just put it far enough away from the excavation area that it wouldn't go back into the hole, because obviously that would defeat the purpose. But there would be options for shifting. It's the only reason that it was proposed to be there by our engineer, Brian Irrigation, was that there's just not much grass on the site, and it's always better to place it on top of grass. There's just not too much of an option there.
Okay. Now, do you have that next to you said the way? Is that next to Pine Bank Road? I'm trying to.
Yeah, it's I can go ahead and
If you bring that back up, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Hannah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
yeah, so it's, I don't think it has a name per se. It's a 12-foot wide way that provides access to the water.
Pine Bank Road.
It's a picture way.
It is?
doesn't-
Pine Bank is down there, further down.
Okay, I'm not seeing it. All right.
Yeah, so there's Pine Bank Road is here on this southern edge
Oh,
of
okay.
209, and then there's a way that's 12 foot wide.
Yeah, but do people use that to access their homes, correct?
Pine Bank, yes.
The way?
Jennifer, I'm Tom Fanning, by the way.
Yeah.
I know I'm supposed to introduce myself. I'm just a volunteer member of the club that works in the industry. Pine Bank is an active dirt road, and
Yep.
folks do use it. The paper way does not exist.
Okay, that's all I need to hear, Mr. Fanning. Thank you.
No problem.
It's just a paper road, that's fine.
Yep.
Okay, I'm all set, Hannah. You can remove the plan. Thank you. Those are the only questions I have.
All right. Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. Hannah, I know that you had emailed this to me before, but if we can just add it to the record, who will be maintaining the IA system when the club is not in use? And I'm assuming the winter season?
Do you have any detail on that?
We do. So we're going to hire someone. The legacy cesspool, which operates like a lot of the cesspools on the Cape, not particularly well, has no maintenance contract, but we have no problem accepting the condition from the commission that obligates us to have a reasonable maintenance solution. Not a problem. I don't have a name for you specifically tonight, Alyssa, but I'm happy to accept an obligation.
Okay, thank you. And just to note that, there is a fence around the dumpster in the velocity zone. I understand it's there for screening. So the commission will have to decide if that can be permitted. And I think you touched on it right at the beginning, Hannah, but I missed it. Do you have a location for the 2 replacement trees yet, or is that going to be worked out maybe later?
I think I just had a discussion with the applicant, Tom, just before the hearing. There's
Okay.
some concern that the neighbors might have some buy-in to the location of where they might be positioned. So
Okay.
that's TBD for now.
Okay, we can always condition that if the board feels appropriately. And then I do know that there were some commissioner comments brought to our attention before. I believe there needs to be some source of power or electric to the septic. Can you add that to the plan at your convenience?
Yep, and just for the commission's awareness, I have personally researched, there's a legacy 200 amp panel within the club. It's got 8 empty breaker positions, and I've actually have the product data for the pumps. So we're in good shape. There's no new service, no new panel. It's just breakers and feeders.
Okay, perfect. And then there was a note on the plan about, I think it was dispersal of materials on the site. Where will that be distributed?
I did see that question from you. I didn't have the chance to speak with Brian. He was too tied up this afternoon. So I'm not sure what that's referring to either. There's certainly no plans to leave sediment at the site. All excavated sediment that's not being put right back into the hole. Obviously, if it's clean, it'll stay. But there's no plan for dispersing any sediment at the site. So I'll make sure that's cleared up.
Okay, yeah, it looks like it's under the note for erosion control. So maybe it's referenced to like when they're done, they'll just cut it open and leave the material behind. I would just say remove it from the site. Yeah, let's not leave it there.
That's no problem. I think the job is ultimately a net import, Alyssa, so I think that's not a problem.
Okay, perfect. I think I'll leave it at there for now. Thank you so much.
One more thing,
right.
Mr. Chairman. It's just a question I have for Mr. Fanning. Mr. Fanning, what are all those hay bales lining the front of the club?
You're talking about the erosion control, Jennifer?
Yeah, they're all in the front of the club.
Those are the photos that you included on your email earlier today. I don't know if you had the time to review it, Tom. They look like they're at the edge of the ocean.
They're along the seawall.
Really? Honestly, Jennifer, I'm not aware of that. So we've added hay bales?
Yeah, there's a line of hay bales, and my apologies, I meant to add it to the staff report, but I had forgotten, and then I forgot a second time. Yes, they're all lined in the back, sort of by the water side, and then they extend onto the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they were on the wall, but I'm presuming it's in an effort to prevent storm damage.
I assume, well, I do know we do end up replenishing sand periodically. Maybe that's in reaction to this, but I'm embarrassed to say I haven't been down to the neighborhood this winter much. I was not aware those are there. if they represent a problem for the commission, more than happy to accept a condition of, to have them removed immediately. That's not a problem.
Yeah, we usually go through a permitting process for that type of
Okay.
thing. So if they can be, that would be great. And next time you add sand, that gets permitted too.
I was just
Thank you.
gonna say that, Mr. Fanning, what is this sand replenishing program of yours?
And that is not actually mine, but
That,
I hear your point. We do lose sand periodically there.
and that's fine, and you are not allowed to replenish it without a permit, so you will need to file a notice of intent to replace the sand.
Understood, no problem.
You guys good? All
Yeah,
right.
if I can get over the sand replenishing with no permit comment, yeah, I'm good.
All right. Commissioner comments, I'm gonna start. So I assume those hay bales were just for that intent for storm damage prevention over the winter. So I don't see the point of asking them to remove them. So that's one comment. Hannah, you were asked, but we're not given an opportunity to answer. What is the purpose of the rain garden?
Yeah, so the purpose of the rain garden is to act as a sort of a mitigation area. This was not designed with native plants yet. We sort of left it open. But my suggestion for filling the rain garden would be herbaceous vegetation, as right now the site has sort of a smattering of lawn grasses and then the rugosa rose. So this would be a good addition in terms of habitat. Some small shrubs might be good too. So this would just act as additional stormwater retention for an area between the edge of the parking lot and the edge of the site.
Okay, that's where I was going with it, is if it's set up as supplemental drainage control, then that would be a good thing as opposed to leaving it the way it is.
We could also
Okay.
change it to include on the plan the edge of vegetation for the rugosa rose, which I don't know if that was captured properly, and have it be far longer and more narrow so that it occupies that sort of sparse grassy area between the edge of the parking lot and the rugosa rose. So it would be sort of longer, but still maintaining roughly that square footage to compensate for the 169 square feet of impervious associated with retaining wall.
Okay. Is this system being completely contained within lot 4? So the picket fence that exists between the club and the house implies that, you know, the house property comes all the way over to the parking lot, but your plan, it looks like that's not the case. So I'm just looking for clarity.
I think Tom might be able to speak to that.
Yeah, so Jamie, you know, we're trying to be good neighbors, so we have coordinated with the abutters. And those folks have expressed an interest in remounting that to the extent that it's permissible. They'd asked us to reinstall that and cement it into the fieldstone retaining wall. So that would be the plan unless that represents an issue for the commission. We would sort of reestablish that in its current location, but it would sort of jog up on top of the mounted system.
But okay, I hear you. But my specific question is that that's your property.
I believe it is on our property. The fence line is just not
Correct.
in the right location.
Okay.
The parcel boundaries are on the plan, and that's what we've complied with, so that it's all within our property. I think the picket fence is just in the wrong spot.
Yeah, that happens, but that's what I'm looking for. Have you applied to the Board of Health yet?
We
Yes.
have, and that process is completed, awaiting a contractor selection, Jamie, to pick up the license.
Okay. All right, Kevin.
No, I had no questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, Maury?
That was my question too, Jamie. So this has already been submitted to the Board of Health
It has.
and a permit has been,
Issue
permit?
but not picked up yet, Maureen.
no,
Yeah,
not that it hasn't been picked up, it has, a permit has been issued.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, I looked at permit eyes today and I did not see it. And I didn't see it on the agenda, so I was just curious. All right. That being said, I have a lot of questions. One of them is the wall.
Mhm.
And when I see something that says grouted CMU backer with fieldstone facade is an acceptable alternative, which are you doing? A fieldstone wall or a CMU wall?
Fieldstone. Yeah, there's a detail on the lower right-hand corner that
Oh, I know, I see the detail, but I also see the
Yep.
note below it that says you have an option to change it up.
I think that's a legacy note that regrettably is not correct. The intent is to build a wet set fieldstone wall.
Okay, and that being said, what are you doing on the neighbor on lot 8 and 9? Because the wall ends about a third of the way on the southern end, the southwest end. And the grade changes are still at the same elevation, so is that gonna just fade off, or is that wall in a V zone, which usually is supposed to contain a perk right inside inside some kind of wall, so that it doesn't get blown out in a hurricane? Because I don't know, everybody, just so you know, a perk right is little tubing. It's about the size of your thumb, and it has little emitters in it. So it's just this sort of like hoses that run back and forth, and the reason they're used is because they can be used where there's groundwater situations. They can have less separation. But that being said, they're not like concrete infiltrators. But if the Board of Health is happy with it, I'm fine. But we have to worry about it getting blown out in a hurricane on that back wall, and it's not being 100% contained. And I want to know why you stopped the wall.
So I can probably answer that one for Hannah. The perk right, as you just alluded to, was selected in coordination with the Board of Health Administrator. And was it is a more expensive system for the club, but it was selected because of its low profile and the high water table that I'm sure you folks are all aware of. I was not aware that the system needs to be fully contained. It's contained where we had an issue managing grade on the current scheme. If there is a preference for the system to be fully contained by the retaining wall, while it will add more expense, we will, if you want to make that a condition, we will do it.
Well, I
Right.
just don't know how you're gonna feather that corner down on between lot 8 and 9 and your property.
The contours are shown there, and I'm pretty comfortable they work.
Well, they're being changed.
Yes.
They're going from,
There's no change on the abutter's property.
oh, I know it's not on the abutter's property, but you are literally on the
To-
property line almost.
We feel like we have enough without requesting a grading easement or creating complexity there. We feel like we have enough of, the system is about, it's only about 3 feet above the asphalt parking lot. So we feel like we can blend that out successfully. That said, we're not here to fight with the commission. If there's a strong preference for a fully contained system, we'll do it. It just adds expense to a small nonprofit club, that's all.
Well, it could be just a CMU wall in the back. It doesn't have to be a fancy stone wall.
Yeah, but respectfully, we want to be, the abutters are members of the club, longtime members of the club, and I don't think the club would do an exposed CMU wall out of respect to that relationship.
Well, I'm only one board member. I don't want to see that kind of void that's not inside a wall with a 3-foot increase without it being contained. And just some some housekeeping things. And I know this is probably, we only got one sheet and there, it says 1 of 1, but the Board of Health got 2 sheets and they're different than ours. And I really would like to, when we get them submitted, we should have what you submit to the Board of Health as well, so that we can all be on the same page. It makes it easier for everybody to follow what you're talking about. Because the perk rates, I've installed them and, you have a restaurant, I don't see a grease trap, but if the Board of Health has already passed all this, I'm fine with it. I'm just worried about the long-term life of the emitters with grease going into them from a restaurant and a snack bar. And I don't want to see this fail and have to disturb the environment again to redo it. The parking lot, there aren't many spot elevations, and you're gonna be grinding it and putting new surface down, am I correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so it's almost 7,500 square feet of asphalt. So I think the rain garden is gonna be huge. And that you pitch this away from the septic and toward the rain garden so that you don't have any impacts, because groundwater is right there.
We
And-
agree. That's how it operates today too. So absolutely no problem. And I completely agree with you. You should have the full submission. So we'll get
Yep.
that over to you.
Yep, and then the last thing was there were no variances required for Board of Health.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
Uh,
only because you're only 4 foot off the road layout, so I was just making sure that they're fine with, again, it's actually less than 4 feet off of county road. I'm not so worried about the way or that sort of thing, but
yeah.
county
I
road
didn't
is,
attend that call, but that meeting, but I think his primary consideration was the relationship between the south end of the system and the property line.
I can
Okay.
confirm with Brian, who I believe attended that hearing, to see if there's anything relevant.
okay. And then the other thing is usually we like to have a PLS on this, and there's no PLS stamp on the one we got. You might have had one on another plan. It was not on the Board of Health plan either.
Yeah,
So
we weren't
just-
aware that we needed a PLS stamp at the time that we submitted, but we had that turned around and got it stamped.
Oh, great,
So I
thank
think
you.
the ones that the commissioners received was just like one or 2 days before that, but on the
Okay.
revised plan as well, we have that stamp.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And I think, and you should put, and if you had a PLS, they would have picked up that the land under the ocean, land containing shellfish and all that, and there was no locus on the map. On your plan. Thank you.
There's a locus above Brian's stamp on the
Oh, I'm
far.
sorry, yep, there is, I see it. now.
Yeah, every plan is a little different. But I did see the note about adding land under ocean, shellfish and eelgrass.
Thank you.
All right, Betsy.
I have no questions or comments.
All right. All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any other questions or comments from the commission? Hannah? Tom? All right, what are you thinking, folks?
We're good. Thank you.
Aren't there some changes that the board wanted to see?
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so,
Hannah,
yeah.
would like a continuance?
Yes.
Okay, does March 27th work for you?
Oh, it doesn't work for us.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It doesn't work for us.
Is
Would
there,
April 3rd work for you, Hannah?
Jennifer, excuse me for interrupting first. Is there, seems like we've got a fairly modest number of issues. Is there any opportunity for you guys to condition this approval and then we'll resubmit and do it at a staff level? We're hopeful to try and get this done in the spring is the only reason I ask, and get off this legacy cesspool, which isn't good for anybody.
What issues, sir? I mean, there are quite a number of things that the board wanted to see. Specific board members, so I'm not comfortable looking at it at a staff level, and I know some of my commissioners want to look at it. So it's up to the board.
It just,
We're amenable to two replacement trees. I just would like a little latitude to try and work with the neighbors in terms of how they're sited. That's no problem.
It's the trees, it's the redesign of the rain garden, it's the wall around the system. It's a lot of other things that Hannah needs to check with Brian, like where is all this material gonna be dispersed and displaced?
Well, look, if we could just do them one at a time, we will not have any residual materials left on the job. So if it doesn't go back in the hole, it's gonna go in a truck and go away. Happy to accept any condition from the commission on that. That's not a problem. If I heard sort of a mixed view on the rain garden, if the commission would prefer we leave that legacy tomato plant thing there, I know it's invasive. We'll leave it. If the commission would prefer the rain garden, we'll put it in. We just need clean guidance. Happy to go either way. Whatever.
Yeah, we could use a confirmation on what the commission feels about the complete containment of the filtration system and with a retaining wall.
Correct.
And the
If-
revision of the rain garden.
That Maury suggested, if
Mhm.
Maury suggested it, then I want it and Kevin wants it,
Okay,
Done.
and so does Jamie. So there you go.
Okay. That's fine by us. Happy to add it.
But now you're asking the staff to review it. Does the board want to see it or not? Maury, Betsy, would you like to see it on a plan? Because there are a lot of changes here that we're being asked to review administratively, and I'm not quite sure they're going to satisfy the commission. So I am uncomfortable reviewing them, and Mr. Fanning, I apologize, but you know, sometimes board, hearings get continued and they're, planning should have planned for this. We got this, if you wanted to do this project in the spring, then a end of February filing to try to push this through the board for spring installation. We probably should have seen it a little bit earlier. But it's up to the commission. If you want me to review it, we will, but I can't guarantee that. I just feel better with a continuance. I hate to push it, I really do, but there are a lot of things that the board raised that. Well, I'm not
Maureen?
hearing anything from the board.
I would like to see it continued with the revisions, but I think that the applicant can move forward because if the Board of Health has approved the system, at least they can go out and get their contractual people. And this won't slow that down. And I understand them wanting to get somebody in place and get queued up because everybody gets busy and you won't get somebody to do it. But that part is pretty okay, except for the wall. But as far as the system, the Perk-Right system itself and all that, it's fine. And the Board of Health is already going to issue them a permit. So I think that our aspect of it is all things that they need to do some housekeeping and put it on a plan that's revised and not put the burden on staff to go and have to figure it all out for them.
Sounds good. I just, one quick question, apologies. Is there an appeal period on an NOI?
Yes.
There is a 10-day appeal period under the state and a 60-day appeal period under the bylaw.
Okay,
So you would start the system at your own risk.
so to construct ahead of the appeal period is to put us at risk. Okay, thank you.
So you would put yourself at risk. We're not putting you at risk, sir.
No, I understand.
Do you know of any abutters that are opposed to your project, sir?
No, this is no, not at all. This is
Okay.
an overdue project.
Usually, if there was a butter concern, they would be at the hearing and we would have been contacted, and I don't believe we were contacted by anybody, were we, Alyssa? So, but yeah, there is a, again, 10-day appeal period under the State Wetlands Protection Act and a 60-day appeal period under the bylaw.
Thank you.
When did that become 60 days? I always thought it was 21.
21.
No, he said appeal period. So after the order is issued, there's a 10-day appeal period under the state and a 60-day appeal period under the bylaw. It's not
It's
21, 21 to
always been
issue.
that way that I've
Always
been
been that
on the
way.
board.
I believe you. Kevin,
No, I think you just
No.
did it.
So do we have a date, are you asking for a continuance? And if you are, what's the date?
Yes, we would like a continuance and as soon as we can possibly be heard.
Is it April 3rd?
April 3rd.
If that's the soonest, then we will take April 3rd.
Yeah. So at the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this to April 3rd.
Carla Hawk second.
O'Brien second.
ooh, competition. I like it. All right. Any other questions or comments? Voting on the continuance to April 3rd. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury.
Carla Hawk's eye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 3rd. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah. Have a good-
Night.
All right. Next up, Alex Kahn, Falmouth Heights Real Estate LLC, 263 and 269 Grand Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct 2 enclosures. Ken,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting Tom Bunker up to present his project.
is it the same owner? These 2 properties?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
And like I said, the last week, there was some confusion on what the application said, what we advertised, and what assessors had as the addresses versus the parcel numbers. So we just were overly cautious and re-advertised
Okay.
to cover all our
And-
bases.
For the record, this has never been open, so the quorum is
Correct.
us tonight. Mr. Bunker, you're up, sir.
Okay,
Good
thank
evening.
you. It was Jen just explaining about the address mix-up. Yeah, I'm representing Alex Kahn, the owner of Falmouth Heights Real Estate, which is in this case, the Shipwreck Restaurant, which of course used to be BBC. I can share my screen and go into a couple of things here.
Yes, please.
I can remember how to do this. Where's that?
You did it last week, Tom.
I know, but you know, that seems like a long time ago.
I see your Valentine sweater right behind you.
Yeah, that's right. Well, red is my color anyway.
Mm,
I'm sharing the screen and trying to remember everything I have up here to show you guys. Oh, one thing here. Okay, there's the place you would recognize. Still in its British Beer Company colors on Google Earth. So what they want to do is see this little corner cut out of the building. They want to enclose that, whoops, enclose that to add maybe one more table. It's now an entrance or an exit that they don't use. So they want to add a little more space there. And then they also want to enclose or put a cover and sliding windows over this ramp so that people can during the busy times people can stay there under cover from the weather, and as I said, stay away from long home run balls hit from the ball field or whatever. We have the GIS map here, show that purple, it's a velocity zone. And here is our plan So, so you're zooming into here. That's the corner talking about there. 33 square feet to be enclosed in this location, which will be like one more table inside rather than the concrete stoop on the outside. And then this much 30 feet of it's basically a canopy, but it does have walls and windows. I think they're somewhat slidable, they're operable. There's still access from both sides. There's a ramp coming up from the north side up here, and then a little bit steeper access coming up this way to the doorway that's right in here. So nothing on the ground is changing. There's no excavation. The holes drilled into the concrete to anchor the framing down, I suppose. And I have some. I think the architectural files that we sent to you were somehow I couldn't find them, and the ones that I have are not so good. But anyway, it's going to be like this kind of view here, looking at it from the ballpark side. Some windows along here and a roof over it. And see, it's these are some other details here, but it's if you get the gist of it, it's cover there. It's all asphalt and concrete to begin with. There's no change in coverage, and we're within flood zone VE. So the velocity zone, we have 100 and I'd have to go back to this one again. 195 square feet of enclosure. They had proposed a much longer one, which went way over the 200 square feet, but that's down to less than 200 square feet. And other than the velocity zone, we're not in any other resources or buffer to resource areas. So that's what we're proposing, and I will take that down and take any questions.
Thanks, Tom. Jen?
I have no questions at this time, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Ms. Bergeron?
No comments. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments, Maury?
The only thing is they've taken their last and only bite of the 200 square feet, well, 195.
195.
And make sure that's in the finding, so there's no
Yep.
future improvement. Okay, thank you, that's all.
All right. Betsy?
Those are glass windows. They may be broken by baseballs.
They're tempered glass. I should have
Oh,
pointed.
okay.
Yeah, they thought of that. Yeah.
That's from long ago, but experience.
Mhm.
That's all. Thanks.
Kevin?
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
And I'm gonna make a motion to close the hearing and take it under existence, under advisement.
Harlow Hawk second.
All right. Kind of simple. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments?
Great
All right.
presentation from Tom.
Yes.
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet. Okay, yeah, good.
You like it?
I'll try the next one.
We're voting. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Harlow Hawk's eye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Thank you. I'll stick around.
Hey, stick around for a while.
Stick around. Yeah,
You're gonna be here
This is the cool place to hang out.
absolutely.
All right, next up, Michael and Ann Feenan, trustees, Feenan Revocable Trust, 101 Lake Lehman Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install coir fiber rolls and to install mitigation plantings as required under Mass DEP number 25-4503. 10.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Tom Bunker is still with us to present his second project of the evening.
Still here after all these years. Yeah. Yes, thank you for the record. My name is Tom Bunker, representing the Feenans. on a continuation of the project. I have a notice of intent, or there was an order of conditions issued. We've got an extension for only 6 months to do this work and install the mitigation plantings, but that extension expired, so this is a new notice of intent. And of course, you expect the conditions, including mitigation planting, to be attached to obviously the conditions that go with this order, assuming approval. So if I may, I will share my screen
Yes, sir.
and just have to pull up a plan here. I'll get the GIS map first. No, that's not very helpful, but this is the property right here. So you see it's flood zone AE elevation 14, front sun, Little Pond at the end of Lake Lehman Road before it topples into the ocean. And this sort of has to do, not has to do, but it's sort of a continuation of your conversation with Mike about eroding coastal banks. See if this is the right plan. There we go. So even when we filed the previous notice of intent, when we did some additions to the backside of this house, there was some small amount of erosion along the base of this bank, which goes up from sea level up to elevation 14, 15, fairly steep. It's lawn right now with a row of pruned back cedar trees across the top, and this has eroded more severely in the last few years when he was doing the work, so stopped. He knew that he wanted to do something, and I think he had talked to the conservation department. They said he could put in these coir, however it's pronounced, coir or choir, to slow down the erosion, the soft solution, however it might be termed. And so that's what we're here before you with. So it's in a flood zone, AE elevation 14, so it's a flood zone all the way up. And this bank has eroded now, so it's about, the base of the bank is at elevation 1.4. It varies because chunks of it have been falling down, but it's around 1.3, 1.4, whatever. And of course, the top varies from 4.5 up to 5.7. It goes up and down like that. And so this is the mitigation planting that was proposed and approved at that time. And it's hanging over the bank. See, some of these green dots are beyond the top of the bank. So we're proposing is the 16-inch diameter coconut fiber rolls staked in place up the bank, basically a 1-to-1 slope up here. A lot of times this system is put in along more beach type or sandy areas, and that's why there was left one little bit of planting beach grass here. But the proposal, or the narrative rather, says more because of the environment. It is brackish. It's a coastal pond. It's saline, but not as saline as the ocean, and certainly the soil conditions here are not sandy. So rather than filling this all up with sand and beach grass, the silty loam put in, which would be more conducive to more upland plants taking root in it. So what I had was I do have Acarus halimifolia tubulings, which I did discover from a native plant online nursery. to plug into the Hoyer logs, like the bottom two rows of that to get some of that more salt marshy type vegetation going along the bottom. But then felt that the upper part could just be put in with what I had called in the narrative, at least, would be the native grasses. Staff asked me for some clarification on that, and so I was suggesting what people would call the drought tolerant, because they're deep rooted, and drought tolerant like the fescues, deep rooted grasses that would grow into this matrix, the substrate, and hold it together better. And so that's what we're proposing to do there. I can, the limit of work we have staked, till I went out to look at it with this wind blown water, the water was lapping up a little higher than the stakes we put for the limit of work out there. But I think on normal times, I think we're okay with it. And so it is not below high water. It's above high water, so it wouldn't require, probably doesn't require licensing anyway. I can review some of my response to the staff. I tried emailing it earlier this evening, and for some reason it didn't go through. So Jen, I don't know if you and Alyssa got the email. I tried again. They asked if the ivy, see there's knotweed and ivy up here, the ivy is still quite plentiful, and there's still knotweed there, and I could see no indication that so they haven't started putting the work, that they didn't start doing the mitigation planting, and so they didn't prep the rest of the site for it. So I'd say none of the work down on the bank was ever started. And you know, when this work is done, then they will do the planting, including the ivy and knotweed. Let's ask if we commented we don't have a plant list from the first time, and we still don't have a plant list here. It would certainly be happy enough if we just put in the condition that the plant list would have to be approved by you before it's installed. Obviously, it's native species. You have to get some that it can take a little bit of salt spray, so not the usual viburnums. There are some saplings here, and preserve as possible. If they can't be preserved, so staff asked if a condition that they be, oak saplings be planted back in if these existing ones can't be preserved, and that's certainly a valid condition to put on it. The contractor she asked about is Traverse Landscape Construction from Sagamore Beach. Mike got it here. Mike Fraser at Traverse Construction. If you're writing it down, Jen, you should be able to get the email when you get back or something. Anyway, it's in there. And the last question was, what are those PVC pipes? And Mr. Feenan said that these are two right here, two existing pipes, and he said that put in by a Hui scientist who comes there and monitors. He said monitors something 2 or 3 times a year. So that's what those two pipes are there for. So that is what we are proposing, and I will take this down and take questions.
Thanks, Tom. Jen?
Yes, Tom. Tom, do you think you might be able to put a plant list together for us? We can close the hearing, but if you could get me a plant list by the time we issue the order or before, we can incorporate it in the order. I'd feel a lot better if we actually had a plant list, given that this should have been done before. It hasn't been done. Their project was done, but none of the mitigation was done.
Definitely.
It's not giving me the warm fuzzies, Tom. And I like to be warm and fuzzy.
We like when you are.
Really?
It's a pretty steep construction
never
over
seen it.
there.
What's that?
Do you know if, who'd you say it was, Travers Construction? Do you know if they have any
Experience?
experience installing fiber roll core logs like this?
He says he's done many fiber roll installations. Probably not in Falmouth if you don't know him, but he says he's done many.
Okay, didn't say we didn't know him. I'm just saying I
Oh, say it.
don't
Oh.
know if he did any core fiber roll installations.
He had. He said he has. Yes.
Okay. Okay,
Pre-construction
only because
meeting.
we've been just having an issue with smaller type fiber roll constructions like this that haven't been installed correctly. So I'm just kind of concerned. So if you could just get me a example, a town, that would be great.
Okay. Yeah.
And then construction access, you don't know how they're gonna get the logs down there, do you?
Well, these particular logs, I think I noted in the narrative, they're only 10 feet long, and I think the heaviest one, I mean, they're carryable.
Okay, perfect, perfect. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Is that a technical term? Carryable?
Carryable. I was hoping
Oh,
somebody
well,
would pick me up on that.
All right, Ms. Bergeron.
No comments. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner comments. Betsy.
I had a couple of comments. One is, can we fold the previous order of conditions into this record?
Yes.
Thank you, Jen. And what kind of cedar trees are those? What's the genus? I mean, they don't look like what I usually call cedars.
Well, they're terribly pruned, but it could be more of an arborvitae thing. I don't know. I mean, obviously they're planted in a row. We've just been calling them cedar trees, and they might be more, well, arborvitae or something. I mean, now that you mention it, there's one on the plan that's down toward the south end of the property that's like almost horizontal. And I was just looking at that, and it's true. Looking at that, and the bark does not look like cedar tree bark. More like.
Didn't give me a warm and fuzzy cedar tree feeling looking at it.
Well, I don't think warm cedars are very fuzzy to begin with.
Well, I love cedars.
I love them too. They're kind of prickly.
Yeah, but I don't mean touching them, seeing them. So the other comment I have, and you brought this up, but yeah, they should get rid of the ivy, and in particular, it's killing one of their big trees that's there.
You'll see
That's
the
all.
ivy on the next plan also, but yes.
So I have to say, so I told everybody that there's some high school art, and if you get a chance to go to Falmouth High School tomorrow or the next day or over the weekend, where they visited the Coonamessett and they visited Walden Pond. It's pretty interesting, but there was one student who wrote about, it's got a very interesting poem about ivy, how she and this other person loved ivy, and then the other person got older and people said, no, it's terrible, you got to get rid of ivy. So, it's sort of that. But I always say to people, like, you go out and they go, hey, look what we have growing right at the water's edge. Isn't it beautiful? And I say, yeah. I said, it's really beautiful, but it's called Phragmites. And in a couple of years, you're not going to be able to see anything.
Well, that's what I have a feeling. I have a feeling every spring, the first shrubs and plants that leaf out tend to be invasive plants.
Yeah.
Like honeysuckle and things like that. I'm sure people say, oh, isn't it great? Everything's turning green.
Yeah.
But it's the not so good stuff that's turning
The
green.
honeysuckle comes out early. Yeah.
Yep.
Bittersweet.
Yep.
Anyway, that's all I have, Jamie.
All right. I like how you plugged that little thing, high school thing in there.
But that's
I forgot. Tom might Tom might find that interesting.
I
Yeah,
might, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna be in Switzerland. Leaving
Oh.
tomorrow. That's why I couldn't come to the hearing next week. I'll be in Switzerland. So I can't make time to get to the high school.
Oh, well, good. Well, enjoy being in Switzerland. I'll
Thank
send you
you.
some of the pictures. I took some of the pictures to send the contractors.
Yeah.
all right. I have some notes about what we will come up with for some conditions. One of the things I want to bring up right now is pre-construction meeting. And I'd like to see some form of a methodology plan. For the specific contractor, how they intend to do the project, since it's somebody that's unknown to us. Kevin,
Okay.
No, that's my only concern. Fine.
okay. Maury,
Same thing. That's methodology and on-site. Thank you. That's all.
yeah, and in fairness, that's something that we would want anyway. You know, for anybody that's doing a project that we're not familiar with. So, but I think it's important for a project like this that we have some methodology ahead of time.
Can I ask, can they get would we have the on-site meeting first? So we can, you guys, does you have to develop the methodology first, or can you meet on the site first to kind of feel things out a little bit and then do a methodology that you would be happy with?
I think for me, I would want a pre-construction meeting, but which is kind of standard for a lot of our projects, right? I think the methodology could be submitted ahead of time. I mean, if they have a way that they do it,
Yeah,
that's
it.
you know, there's no reason that couldn't be submitted. Then when we do the pre-construction meeting, it's already in mind, and you know, if there's any, I don't know the word to use, discrepancy, we could
work it out.
be discussed at that time, you know.
Yep. Okay.
So, and it's always interesting to see how different people do coir fiber systems. You know, some of them are more elaborate than others. But it's still interesting to see. All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? From the staff? From Mr. Bunker?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
Hawk, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing else, we're gonna vote. Let's see.
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Hawk's eye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, I'm still here though.
Have fun and
Oh, yeah, that's right. You won more,
Want to say
Tom.
goodbye,
Ooh.
Tom?
It's the Tom Bunker Show.
One more, Tom.
All right. Next up, continued request for hearing under notice of intent. Rami and Ranaya Assad, 50 Landfall, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a one-car garage and install mitigation plantings. Jen.
Mr. Bunker is still with us to present his other project, his last project of the evening.
Last project of the evening, last project of the month. Yes, thank you. For the record, I'm Tom Bunker, ESS Design. You've seen this before, and I'll just start by saying that Mr. Assad has not gotten a letter from the association yet, but he hopes to, and hope that if things are okay here, that you can close it so they know it'll be okay, but obviously not issue or whatever, or not sign the building permit until he gets that letter. He's talked with the association. We've made changes. You know, his lawyer is talking to their lawyer, they're going through it. So it will be done, written properly. Anyway, that's just the first thing I'll say, and then I'll show the plan here. Am I sharing or not?
No,
You are not.
not yet.
I'm
We're
not.
sharing it.
Okay, let me try that
Don't be
again.
selfish.
Now I'm sharing. Okay. When last we were here, there were two main comments, and one, we had the mitigation down into this scrubby area, and that is no longer there. And the second concerns about the ivy removal from around this beech tree. So to address that, I have changed, met with staff on the site. There'll be some mechanical scraping of the ivy through here, but up in this area here, and certainly nothing within 10 feet except pulling, cutting or pulling by hand, pulling the ivy stems off of the tree and whatever. So there's no mechanical work in this area, and I've somewhere I paraphrased that on the plan here. I thought I wrote that down. I know I did. It's down there. Only hand pulling. There is also no herbicide spraying because treetops does not allow herbicide. So it's just maintaining this ivy by hand, from keeping it out of this area, and then trying to maintain a cover of grass and whatever over it, as best can be done. This area of mitigation got expanded into here, so now it's this sort of walkway through here is 4 feet wide. It used to be 6 feet wide, so this area got expanded. The amount of pavement got reduced. So there's some in the B zone, but the plans that you have do not show this highlighted. And I can send you another copy with this. I added this green just this evening, so you could see better. This is the shrub and perennial landscape bed in this location here. Not paved. This was all paved beforehand, and the pavement went a little further up. So pavement was reduced. That's reflected in the mitigation calculations, and there are 5 viburnum. The association planted these 5 viburnum on this hill. What did he call them? I think Brian Casey, who was doing the work. He does the work for treetops, and he'll be doing this work for the Assads. It's a type of non-native viburnum that was planted there by the association, but they will plant this 250 square feet of native shrubs within that area, unless the association says to move it to somewhere else. But there will be 250 square feet. It'll be 693 square feet total, plus a native tree right on the edge of the lawn down here. So that's what we're proposing to do, and we will get that letter. I hope they can at least. I hope the hearing is closable, so he'll know that it's moving forward on this front anyway.
Thank you, sir. Jen?
I mean, I don't have a problem with the proposed project. I do have some concerns about the association's understanding and of what the requirements were. There was a board member there, Vicky Lowell from the Board of Directors of Treetops was on site with us when we met. Tom, is there a reason we haven't gotten the letter yet?
Lawyers and people take time. It's they're, as far as I know, what I've heard, they're
No.
amenable to it. They said his
Again.
lawyer is talking to their lawyer and things like that.
Yeah, and again, this is common land. I
Mhm.
don't want to hold up the project, but I'm really uncomfortable issuing an order. Even with a condition that we don't sign the building permit without this letter.
He is, yeah,
I'm uncomfortable, but if the board will allow you to do it, that's fine. I'm still uncomfortable.
if, I mean, if that's a condition, if that's a condition of approval, I think that you shouldn't, if that's a condition of signing for the building permit, if you won't sign it unless that comes through, I think that's, I mean, it should be, you shouldn't have to feel uncomfortable that way, I think. It's, as far as Mr. Assad is watching it. I mean, I don't know
Oh,
if
yeah.
you see.
Do you want me to promote him up?
Yeah, he's, yeah.
Hang on. Trying to get over there. My mouse has decided not to work.
We've put conditions like this on before, have we
That's fine.
not?
It's just, and if it was private property, Jamie, I wouldn't have an issue. The problem is it's common association land. That's my only hang up on this. If it was private property, I would have no problem doing that. But it's association common land. But if you want us to write, if you want me to write it up, I will. Doesn't matter to me.
Well, we're probably getting ahead of ourselves anyway. Mr. Assad?
Yes, no, you're absolutely right. It is common land, and I think that's part of the question and the point that the two lawyers are discussing in order for the letter to actually be issued. Obviously, we did have the letter of support from the association initially for the project, and that was included in the file. But this is an additional letter that relates to the mitigation plantings and the responsibilities for the mitigation plantings ongoing. So that's why it's taking a bit of time for the lawyers to actually have the conversations and agree.
So, Mr. Assad, I have a question. Would this order of conditions be issued on your condo deed and the associate, since it's on two different deeds, it would be recorded on your deed and the association's deed for the land?
I think that's a legal question that the two lawyers are discussing. My understanding is the association will have an easement agreement with me, and then for our condo, and on that easement agreement, the mitigation planting will also show up. That was my understanding, but again, it's a conversation between the two lawyers.
And one that hasn't been completely ironed out yet.
That's correct.
All right, so to your point, that brings up the issue that if the lawyers come up with something different than what we've discussed, so, okay. So again, we're getting ahead of ourselves at this point, but if we continued this, we'd have to put dates to it, I realize that, but if we just kind of continued it so that if the letter shows up and nothing changes, then we could close it. Does that make any sense what I just said?
No, it doesn't.
You kind of,
Procedurally.
you kind of faded out, Jamie, so if you don't mind repeating yourself on that one.
Okay, what I'm saying is I agree with you that we shouldn't close this.
Okay,
Because if the lawyers come up with something different,
okay.
it negates what we're talking about. What I'm proposing is, and I'm just throwing this out there, if we continued it, again, just throwing this out there, if we said we're going to continue it to next week and we get a letter and there's no changes, then we could close it. And then if we didn't get a letter, we continue it for another week or what have you. And what I'm getting at is let's not just continue it till May 1st. Let's try to move it along on our end, but it's all gonna land on. Tom, I see you have your hand raised. Just bear with me a second.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's all I'm getting at about the continuing. So it would serve our purposes and, assure Tom that we're not just kicking it down the road to kick it down the road. I mean, I hope he doesn't think that anyway. Tom?
Yeah, couldn't that going down the road be handled with an amendment if the lawyers come up with, if we have to move the location of the planting or something, couldn't it be approved and then we amend it to show a different location or a different quantity? I mean, that's the kind of thing where also if Rami, if the architect comes up with a slightly different footprint, we would have to amend it, whether it's on a condo land or not. So if the lawyers come up with a document that's different, it could be, we could file for an amendment.
We
Any
can't
idea
do it
when they're
till,
gonna work on this?
What was that?
When they're gonna complete this?
I didn't hear you.
How long?
he wants a timetable. When is it gonna be completed?
The lawyer work?
They're working through it as we speak. So, again, I don't know if that's 2 weeks or a month or 2 months, to be honest.
They're getting
Okay.
paid by the
And-
hour.
Yes. I
All
think
right, so we're gonna continue this. So, comments first, Jen. I don't know if you had anything additional.
No, we went outside, he revised the plan. Again, my only concern was the letter from the association. We
Got
don't
it.
usually handle something like this all that often, so I'm being really cautious.
Yeah. Ms. Bergeron,
No additional comments. Thank you.
all right. Commissioner comments and questions, Maury.
I would like to see it continued. Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Betsy,
My comment is, I think Jen is wise to be cautious.
I agree. Kevin,
I don't know why we should be cautious. We're only dealing with a couple of lawyers just sitting down and talking. But that said, I agree that we should continue.
all right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat regarding this hearing, Mr. Chairman.
We can't continue to next week though, right?
No, it sounds like it's gotta go,
Yeah.
it's gotta go down a ways.
Well, Tom's
So-
probably not gonna be here and Maury's not gonna be here.
Maury, when are you coming back?
Oh. I'll tell you just a second. I mean, I can be on Zoom for this one, if it's just a letter.
Oh,
Correct?
you said you were gonna be on Zoom for the 6th anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I'll be back. Yeah, I'm gonna be back the next week. I'll be back the 12th.
okay, so, but you're gonna be on Zoom next week with us, right?
Correct.
Okay, so.
Okay, but in light of what they were saying, hold on, Tom. Sounds like we should put it out a bit longer than what I was suggesting.
Oh, okay, so our next meeting would be the 20th.
We're not all here then.
Oh,
It's gonna be April 3rd,
19th.
April 3rd is the next time.
and
We're
April
all
3rd
here.
is starting to get filled up
Well, this shouldn't take long if
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 we get
we
the
have a
letter
letter.
right. All right, Tom, you had your hand up?
Well, I was just gonna say that if it's just for waiting for a letter, I don't need to necessarily be here for the hearing either. If I don't know if there's if there's a possibility of the letter getting in by, or do you have to have the letter a week in advance?
No, we don't need the letter a week in
you don't
advance.
need the letter a week in advance. We need the letter a few days in advance. I can't.
Yeah.
Mr. Assad can't show up with the letter without having us read it, so,
Understood.
Well, how about if we continue to next week, and then if we can't do it next week, we'll continue to April 3rd.
Who's not here on the 27th?
Well,
Kevin,
I'm not here on the
Oh,
27th.
that's right. Okay. Okay, so why don't we do that for you, Mr. So we can we'll do it till next week. And if you happen to get the letter, great, we can close it. I know you're shaking your head and I'm sorry.
don't be so negative. You might get it.
And if not, we'll continue you out to the April 3rd. It's up to you, sir. If you want us to continue you to next week and you can push them, that'd be great. If not, it'll be April 3rd.
Given that the lawyers are involved, I doubt that I'll actually get the letter by next week.
Okay, we'll go to April 3rd then.
April 3rd.
Okay, at the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this to April 3rd.
Carla Hawk, second.
All right, I think that's the most realistic approach, so thank you, guys. All right, any more questions or comments? All right, we're voting to continue this until April 3rd. Betsy?
I felt right.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carla Hawk's eye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 3rd. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mr. Assad. Tom,
Thank you.
happy
Have
trails.
fun, Tom.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
night.
you all.
Have a good
Night.
trip, Tom.
Thanks.
Bear with me. Jen, let's be cautious of April 3rd.
Yep.
Seems like we're getting kind of jammed up. All right, the next one has been previously continued. So that brings us to Mary and Susan Johnston, 153 Seapit Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct a walkway and to install coir fiber rolls.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Mark Dibb, who's been waiting patiently for us from Cape and Islands Engineering to present his continued project. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening again, Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the Johnstons for the 153 Seapit Road project. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we did previously open and discuss this project. This is the project where the applicant was seeking to build a small boardwalk with ramps to maintain access of an existing concrete walk. The applicant did provide us with some photos that this concrete walk has existed from at least as early as the 40s, if not the 20s, when the house was originally built. So that's just a side note. At that hearing, there was some concern that the size of this structure was increasing over what's there existing. And basically we took the questions and concerns and resulting in a design change. So I'm going to change. This was the original submitted plan. So what we did was, again, let me go back. The core log installation is the same. There's an area of erosion through this piece of bank. It's varies from about a foot to 2 feet high. So it's not a very significant erosion, but we are proposing a core log installation to fix that. And then the second part was to maintain some access down to the water that they've had for many years. And what we decided was a series of basically just 4 steps. They'd have a typical rise of about 7 or 8 inches. And a run of about 2 feet. So, it's 4 2-foot long steps. So a total of 8 feet, something that would be comfortable for them to get down, over that core log installation of, it's a change of grade of about 2 feet again. So, and we're even proposing that these be made out of like through flow or graded decking. You know, it's just, again, the concrete will be removed. It's a net reduction of area. The existing concrete's about 63 square foot footprint. These new 4 steps that would allow the access would be 33 square feet. You know, we feel it meets the applicant's needs and desires to just be able to maintain access down there, and is a reduction in area, is providing the through flow decking. It is close to the ground, but again, it's just a 4 set of stairs to allow them to safely to get down that slope. We did remove the mitigation from the plan, as we're now reducing the footprint by almost a half. That is the current proposal, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Stop sharing here.
Thanks, Mark. Jen?
Thank you, Mark. I like the plans change, so thank you for that. Just one quick thing, and I don't know if we touched base on this at the last couple of hearings. Who's doing the core firewall installation?
We don't have a contractor picked.
Right.
My preference would be like a CLM, Crawford Land Management or Wilkinson, but there is not a contractor yet, so we would
Okay,
be
so we'll just-
amenable to pre-construction and all that
Okay.
stuff.
All right, great. Thank you.
Ms.
That's all I have,
Bergeron?
Mr. Chair.
No comments, thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. I'll start. Mark, you just said it, but I'm just going to reiterate the pre-construction meeting and methodology. Just to be
Okay, yeah,
clear.
once we pick a contractor, we can
Well, yeah.
do both. You know, we'll get you the methodology and set up a meeting.
Excellent. Just want to make sure I was clear on that. All right, Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Maury.
No questions. Thank you.
All right, Betsy.
Mark, I think this is a great solution.
Thank you.
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public, excuse me, the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Carla Hawk, second.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. We're voting. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carla Hawk's eye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr.
Good,
Bid.
Mark.
Thank you.
Night, Mark.
Thanks.
All right, next up, hearings under an enforcement order. Arthur and Helen Willian, trustees, 135 Silver Beach Avenue, North Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of vegetation from a wetland. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we did send a certified letter. Well, first of all, we had to stop the work again the other day. We did reach out. We did get a name from the contractor who was conducting the work after we stopped them. So we did contact an Alex Bijan, who is related to an heir of the trustees. We were able to reach out to them. They have not received the letter regarding this enforcement hearing because we sent it to the mailing address listed on the property as the official mailing address that the town has on record, and apparently that property is being rented. But we were able to make contact with, again, the heir of the trustees, and we did inform him of this hearing tonight, and we did give them the courtesy of, we said we would continue this hearing until March 20th, so that they would be able to attend.
Do we need to vote on that?
I am asking for a continuance to March 20th, and yes, a vote on that, please, Betsy.
Okay, so now can it just be the four of us? But since we haven't opened it up, can whoever's comes on the 20th can be on the, okay,
Yeah.
so I'll make a motion to continue to March 20th.
Carlo Hawk second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to continue this to March 20th, and since I'm reiterating, so since it hasn't been opened, it can be whatever the quorum is that night,
Correct.
just to be clear. Thank you. All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury.
Carlo Hawk's eye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this matter until March 20th. All right, next up, vote orders of conditions. First up, Laura Torme, 10 Circle Road, Falmouth, Mass. Jen?
Yes, this is the reconstruction of the dock, and what they wanted to do was rotate the float to create the two mooring fields.
All right. Anybody have anything?
Were we? I
What
don't
was
have my notes. I know, I'm just thinking on my notes. I remember that I had a comment about the 3 boats being on that dock, and that they were all, we wanted it to be stern out and bow in
Yeah,
because of water depth. I mean, not that we'll ever be able to enforce it, but maybe if they read it, they might think about it, just because of shellfish there. And that was all
Turn
I,
out, bow in, okay.
not that it'll get
it's
enforced.
better for their motor that way.
Well, they have
Anyway,
a whaler way in close. and
yeah,
It's only like 1.5 feet of water, 2 feet.
I had one other note. Just when we were talking about the stumps on the bank, they mentioned that they would like to come in with a future project and do the full plan at that time. So just looking for your feedback if you're comfortable with that.
Do you think they'll come back?
I don't know. I guess worst case scenario, if we don't hear, we can always send them a letter or get in touch
Okay.
somehow, or
can
mean,
we
if
have
we
a
don't-
condition that there's no COC until those trees are replanted?
You would need a plan, Betsy, on replanting them.
Well, that where they could be arranged on the site visit. I mean, it can't be that hard to figure out where to put them.
Or at least a new notice is filed for that purpose.
Yeah, but
Otherwise,
they
it'll
could,
become an enforcement order, right?
We
Yes,
can
no?
make some findings on the stumps on the bank and put some conditions in that require them to address the issue prior to
Installation.
installing the dock, something like that.
you can do it.
Okay, great, I will.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Carlo Hawk second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Anything else? All right.
Jen can write a novel.
Yeah, I mean, I think building
not
and
for-
reviewing
not-
docks.
Yeah,
So we
not for
just-
this. But I mean, out of all these things that you've done, you could take little pieces of it and make a best-selling novel.
Mm-hmm, okay,
All right, Chad. We good?
yeah, I'm good.
All right, we're voting to issue an order of conditions. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury.
Carlo Hawk's eye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Richard Von Turkovic, 459 Central Avenue, Falmouth, Mass.
Been through this one's been continued so many times, I forget what the actual project was.
Well, the end of the project, what we finally saw was a very colorful map.
Oh, yeah. We have the stoop. We have the front porch addition, it's a couple of additions, covered entrance, the enlargement of the back stoop, and then a
Here are the-
mitigation plantings, and then we were doing restoration plantings. And were we doing mitigation plantings for a previous order as well?
Correct.
Alyssa?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
But when it all got done, when all the little pieces and all the little colors got explained, all the problems had been solved. I suspect Alyssa worked on that.
It was a collaborative effort, as they said last week. I think the only thing that I had was the proposed tree placement. We might be able to find slightly better locations when in the field.
Yeah.
Once the additions are built, there's a couple other windows that might work nicely. And then there was an erosion control line drawn within the vegetation. I wonder if it should be landward of that for construction purposes.
Yeah.
Those are my only final notes.
Okay. Anything else?
I'll make a
All right.
motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Carlo Hawk second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Anything else? We're voting then. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carlo Hawk's eye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. All right, last motion.
Kevin, it's yours tonight.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Carlo Hawk second.
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye.
O'Brien, aye.
Carlo Hawk's eye.
It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.